I think one of the beauties of having indigenous filmmakers from around the world come together, and indigenous storytellers really, is that at the root of it all, at the core of it all, our stories are the same because we hold fast to a belief in relationships. Whether it's the tuna from Otaki or the buffalo in Turtle Island, they're our relatives. You know, we have a connection with the moana, with the skies, with the land. And the theme of this year's festival, ko te mauri he mea huna ki te moana. There is a life force that is hidden in the depths of the ocean, and that speaks to a knowledge that we know little about. It also speaks to the fact that so many of our people live in Te Moana Nui a Kiwa on the islands, and they see themselves as ocean people. Heibi moana. He rereke tō rata tirohanga, they have a different view of the world. And I think really just to come here to tell stories and to explore our world and to expand our minds and our hearts, you know, that's what storytelling's about.
It starts with the filmmakers. We invite submissions from all over Te Ao Takitaki, but we also reach out, we keep track of what's happening around the film world, and we're part of a global indigenous film circle who are all advocating for indigenous cinema to be seen globally. So we're able to build on those relationships to know what's coming and to support new creators coming through and to bring all those to the festival here in Otaki.
Well, just acknowledgement. It's acknowledgement to the people, to Libby, to Tainui, for creating the space for artists, for the world to come and share their magic. And so here we are, 12 years later. You know, it's a big operation just to weave the carpet, you know, the weave the whāriki, and pull that together and bring the magical part. Because in 1973 I attended the first Māori Artists and Writers Conference, and so it moved quite dramatically from that time to here we are today. And so give thanks to them for creating the space for us to be able, for us to learn from each other as a filmmaker, a writer, and I'm the artist, and meeting all the other magical people, indigenous people from the world. And so here we are.
I think it's a connection to story. I think our indigenous storytellers are drawing into their whakapapa, they're drawing into their whenua, their communities. They're telling stories that come from their heart and from their whānau, and they're doing it in a really interesting way. So you're not necessarily seeing stories that you've heard before, or you're not necessarily seeing people that you've seen on screen before, and that adds to this richness which brings people to Indigenous film.
I made a short film, wrote and directed a short film called 30 Mile Street with Māoriland Productions actually. I made it together. Yeah, it's about a young girl whose uncle has lived in front of the same house for 10 years. And really just looking at the impacts of, you know, the rapidly changing urban landscape that is a place like Auckland, and the impact that has on, you know, communities that have settled and created, you know, communities. Yeah, I'm rambling, but yeah, essentially just looking at the idea of home, what it means to people, especially Indigenous Pacific people.
So the name of my animated film is It's Me, Your Nana, and basically it's about a young girl who uses an AI chatbot to communicate with her dead nana on the week of her funeral. Yeah, it's a hearty one, I
think I've just always loved storytelling. Yeah, I think growing up it was always sort of, I guess the medium was always changing. Yeah, because growing up I was like, I want to be an artist. I would paint and write and draw. And then you get older and you're like, oh, I actually like writing a lot. And then you get even older and it's like, filmmaking is actually really cool.
I think for myself, it was an opportunity to sort of have an excuse to come here and be amongst other Indigenous creatives. I feel like in the big city, we sort of make our little communities and we cling to them and we're nourished in them, but it's always cool to come to a space like this where you sort of just, everywhere you look, left, right and center, you're surrounded by that amazing storytelling, amazing Indigenous vibes, and we just grow just by being here, you know, yeah.
I think one thing that is perhaps underestimated is that Indigenous creativity is a viable way to sustain a community and to sustain an existence. I think what our dream is at Māoriland is to see our community thrive socially, culturally and economically. And between Māoriland and Te Wānanga Ōrauko, we've seen this community be bolstered and it's a joyful place to be. And so I dream of that for every community across Aotearoa, whether many other communities are the same as us, so it's not like we're the only one. But I think in terms of other people looking at us, looking at the value of our reo, of our ability to lead in our own spaces, that you look at something like this and you see the power of Indigenous ideas to bring people together and to ultimately create a more plentiful environment for everybody to live in.